Are you a scaling SaaS founder?
Ready to make the leap from leading a team to leading an organization? Join us each week as we refill your think tank with actionable tips and strategies from great business minds you know and those who don't know yet. This is SaaS Fuel with your host, 5-time entrepreneur, SaaS founder, and globetrotting adventurer, Jeff Maines.
Welcome back to the SaaS Fuel podcast, where customer engagement and loyalty is like your grandmother's secret cookie recipe. Treasured, shared with friends, and always leaving you wanting more. I'm your host, Jeff Maines. Help B2B SaaS founders like you grow from traction to scale. Here, growth is more than just numbers. It's about crafting a future-proof company, premium valuation, and leaders who build a business of significance while living epic, adventurous lives. Do you track customer engagement? Do you ever wonder if you're really tracking authentic customer engagement in your SaaS? Well, let's crack that code together. Engagement is one of the most important metrics SaaS leaders can track. Why is that? Well, it's a forward-looking measure of revenue and an early warning system of churn. And today we'll uncover the secrets to measuring genuine customer interactions and improving your engagement strategies. So let's do this. Tracking customer engagement can be a tough task for SaaS companies. And straight up, a lot of companies just don't do it. We didn't do it for a number of years. It wasn't a priority, and churn wasn't a problem. It's one of those things that, it's not a problem until it is. And that came back to bite us. And the funny thing, I say not fun, it really wasn't funny. But the thing about it is most of that churn was preventable had we actually been tracking engagement. Because looking back, you can see the patterns and go, oh yeah, they were going to churn. And we could have done something about it then. But traditional metrics and measures often fail to capture the full picture. And because of that, it leads to misguided strategies, missed opportunities. And what do I mean by traditional metrics? Things like page views or click-through rates. And those are vanity metrics that don't necessarily reflect true customer involvement, satisfaction, or meaningful results. Did they get something meaningful done? Did they accomplish what they were there for? Are they getting value? So how do you ensure that you're measuring what really matters and using that data to drive outsized growth? Let's explore how to track authentic SaaS customer engagement effectively. The first is really identify key engagement metrics. You've got to go beyond vanity metrics and focus on actions that indicate genuine involvement and significant outcomes. And we started at that top level of those vanity metrics and had to go quite a bit deeper as well. And things like that might include feature usage, could be frequency, active days, how many logins, unique logins, not just how many times they have to log in, session duration, customer feedback scores. Every single one of those metrics provides deeper insights into how customers are actually interacting with your solution. Really, really important is to have that full picture. Number two is to utilize advanced analytics tools. Leverage analytics tools that offer more granular insights into user behavior. And the difference is in number one is we're identifying things that we're tracking across, and those can be identified to a company or to a user. And here what we're talking about is looking at aggregated data across the entire user base to understand user behavior. What are they using your platform for? And so tools like Mixpanel, Amplitude, Heap, track detailed interactions within your product. So they're doing event tracking. How are they using your product? What are they clicking on? What are they doing? And there's other tools like Hotjar, Full Story, or Sprig, Mouseflow that literally show a heat map of your app. So, what is the mouse doing between clicks? Where are they at? What are they thinking about? Where are they kind of wandering around? Two really different approaches, both of them helpful. But they help you understand which features are driving engagement and which ones need improvement. Where are people getting lost? So which one is the right approach for you? I think we refer back to number one. What are the key engagement metrics that you're trying to track? It could be either one or it could be both. And third, we have customer feedback loops. Got to implement customer feedback loops. And to do that, we want to actively seek feedback from users through surveys, through interviews, through in-app prompts. It's qualitative data, and that complements your quantitative metrics, what we talked about in number two. And that provides a more full understanding of consumer needs and pain points. Use that feedback to refine your product and engagement strategies continuously. It's not a one-time thing. It's not like, hey, we did that one time and now we know. This is ongoing. And every time you make a change to your app, really follow up and how is it being used? Where are they getting lost? Where are they getting stuck? So to sum up, tracking authentic SaaS customer engagement requires focusing on the right metrics, using advanced tools, and incorporating continuous customer feedback. And those three strategies will help you move away from just using vanity metrics and maybe making some not so great decisions and truly understand customer behavior and enhance your engagement efforts. Our expert guest last week in a very special 200th episode was Neil Gordon. Neil's an expert at communication and elevating brand status through compelling story. We talked about silver bullet statements that make prospects lean in and want to hear more, and the distinction between content and context, and how context is what makes content valuable. Our founder last Tuesday was Glenn Paul, president of Dot Photo. We talked about consumer engagement, personalized outreach, and my favorite was a 5-step process for outstanding customer service. You can take that and drop it right into your business right now. If you missed either one of those episodes, go back and give them a listen. Great stuff there. My guest today is Sethu Meenakshisundaram, co-founder of Zluri, who collaborates with IT leaders worldwide to optimize their IT stacks and enhance profitability. Passionate about the transformative power of SaaS and APIs, he frequently writes on software management and workplace automation. Previous, Sethu was a founding team member and chief business officer at Knowlescape, scaling the corporate learning gamification startup across 30 countries. Welcome someone who shines the light on shadow IT, Sethu Meenakshisundaram. Hey, Sethu, welcome to SaaS Fuel.
Well, nice to meet you, Jeff.
You as well. Can you share with me the founding story of Zluri and what inspired you to transition from corporate learning gamification to SaaS management?
It's a great question. So it's simply put, I think the love for the problem. So that's what pulled us into this space, right? Otherwise, why would somebody from a completely different segment move on to something like SaaS management and IGA, identity governance, right? So it's during the times of COVID is when the idea of Zluri was born. We were all asked to cut cost, irrespective of how much of money we had in the bank. And when we were cutting down the cost and expenses across all facets possible, the office space, the cloud cost and all of that, is when we realized the SaaS cost was actually an invisible cost that was draining out a lot of resources and dollars on the balance sheet. And yet we didn't know of that. And that, when we were able to save easily about $50,000 in about 3 weeks.
Wow.
And that was a lot of money, even today. But back in that time when you're not sure of the future, what COVID would lead into, that was a lot of money.
Yeah.
And that was the reason how we understood that this could be a bigger problem than what we're experiencing. And it was down the rabbit hole we went. And we realized that this is a visibility problem, a control problem, a governance problem, a cost problem, a security problem, and all of that, right? And then we realized that the software is only going to grow in the enterprises, and it's continuously going to grow in the SaaS way, not the old way of .exe installation on-prem version,
right?
Which means then this is going to become bigger than what it is today, is what we thought to ourselves in 2020, and we couldn't have gotten the problem statement more correct than what we did. And one, this was very clear to us in the future. We said, let's go ahead and start up a company in this space. And that's what the idea was Zluri was born. So it's purely the love for the problem that made us shift into this. And I'm more glad because I've learned a lot since starting Zluri than I've learned in the last 15 years.
That's great. I think it's always good to see a founder who has lived the problem and experienced it and then created a business to solve a problem, because they understand that the need in the marketplace and then just seeing the potential. I think that's a great part of the story, seeing the potential of SaaS and where that's going. And this is a growing market for sure.
Yeah. So in fact, another point also what we realized is that's being true today is enterprise software is the only category that's growing at 20% CAGR year after year, right? And that's huge. And That's the new software entering an enterprise. At the same time, a lot of on-prem software that companies currently uses is also becoming SaaS, which means acceleration towards SaaS model of consumption is also shooting up. And I think all of this is adding up to this problem more than ever, that we have seen today from our own customer base, that it's not just that tens of thousands of employee company that uses our product, but even companies with as low as 50 employees use our product as well,
Wow.
right? And that spectrum is huge. And the best part is we are in an industry agnostic space, which means we're not verticalized to, let's say, a banking or a healthcare. Wherever there is too much of SaaS, our product just makes more sense, which means that's practically every company in the world. And I think that's the reason why this is more exciting than ever.
Yeah, definitely. Every company does need that, and I didn't know it went down that low. I'm thinking this is much more enterprise, but that really opens up a whole new market. Was that something that you decided from the beginning, or that you really saw the vision from the beginning, that it could scale from very large to smaller organizations as well? Or was that something you learned along the way?
We learned along the way. I think as a founder, successful, you feel like telling, I knew it all. No, that's not the case, right? I think we discovered all along the way. I think as founders and as a company, we're always learning. And this was a learning that we had, that to an extent that one of our customers had about 15 employees. He came to us. In fact, I got into the call, remember early days, saying that you don't need our platform. That was my pitch, right? And he in turn convinced us to say why he needs our platform. Then he became a customer.
That's
So
great.
it's as funny as it might sound today, but that's a reality. And that's when it opened up, saying that hey, the market is actually wider than we thought, and we latched onto it.
Yeah, that's really good. And you have something worthwhile when you're trying to convince somebody you don't need what we have, and they're saying, "Yes, I do." And they're selling themselves. They're selling you on onboarding them.
Yeah, absolutely right. I think it's happy problem to have, I guess, in that sense. And also, the only difference happens is for a company of that size and an enterprise, the delivery model changes. Right? The kind of way a white glove treatment given to a larger customer is not how a smaller customer would prefer. They would prefer everything to just work once you just get it. So there's a difference in the service delivery model for sure, which we had to adapt the company towards too as we started scaling. But it was happy to we were happy to know that our product could deliver value even for a company of those sizes.
So have you embraced a different delivery model for kind of the SMB market, where it's more product led growth and self onboarding, or is it still like high involvement with them?
The involvement is still high. The reason is because we connect to some of the core systems of a company. That could be IDP system, SSO system, expense system, ERP system, and all of that, which has got very sensitive data. So the whole self mode of connecting whatever they want might not come across well if you choose that route, because you're okay to. Imagine you as a consumer, you're okay to sign up for a SaaS tool yourself
Right.
for your own business and play around with it and start using it and finding value, provided you don't share sensitive data, right? But Zluri cannot start off or deliver value if it doesn't have the integrations required, like I just mentioned, which means it's important to have that human effort to say why this is important, what are security measures we have in place, and why you can connect systems. That needs to be articulated than being self understood. So that's the fundamental difference in the way a SaaS tool with no sensitive data versus a SaaS tool like us with sensitive data has to differ. So the delivery model in that sense has not really changed. But what has changed is that white glove treatment of understanding the really core use case and the value for an enterprise customer is not how smaller customer expect. Almost small customers expect the same value across the board. So which means that does not have to be white gloved in that sense, and that can be generalized. So that's how we've changed the model. So it's faster time to value in that sense across multiple value delivery features. But on an enterprise, it's quick time to value, but on one or two priority use cases, that's a difference.
That makes sense. And I think that's very astute to not just throw that over the fence and say, okay, the SMBs can be, self-service, but to actually take a step back and think, what is it that's going to create a great experience for them, especially when you're dealing with sensitive data. And that's a really, really big deal. And so I like that you've kept that aspect of really, serving them well and making sure that they're set up for success.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, if you don't have that, then there's no point in acquiring those customers. The good part is we are not intentional about acquiring them, but if they come to us, we're happy to service them, right? Because I think that also matters to running the business, because the customer acquisition cost, if it pretty much remains similar or the 10-20% changes in the value, then it just makes more sense to focus where the ROI is higher. Now, obviously, as you go up market, the ROI is higher for us from an investment perspective. So we focus on them. And I think on the lower end of the business segment, we are happy to service if they come to us with a relatively easier delivery model, like I just mentioned. So, yeah.
That's smart to really target, the sweet spot of your market, and then that's going to draw in some things that are maybe a little bit around the outside of that, but you know the difference, and you're really still focused on your target segment of the market.
That's right. So, in fact, we also have this. The happy problem again is we have this problem across multiple geographies as well. There is so Zluri's customers today span more than 30 countries.
Wow.
Right? And if you ask us, did we plan for it? No, we didn't plan for it, right? So we obviously knew which markets to go after, but then a lot of inbounds started coming in, like I said, because SaaS is a problem for companies of all sizes, which also makes it clearer that it happens in all markets as well. And some markets are advanced in terms of the software usage on the SaaS mode versus other markets. So which was not even part of our consideration set because they're smaller um, in the TAM, right value. But we said, like we said, if it's coming inbound, why wouldn't we want to service them? We're happy to service them, and they're very happy advocates of Zluri as well. So yeah.
Well, what were some of the challenges and assumptions in building your product, and how did you navigate those?
Yeah. So the something I keep telling people is integrations are actually good to have in many of the SaaS applications. It can work on its own. If you want to make it more powerful, maybe somebody will say ours is a more powerful platform because we can integrate with Salesforce. We can integrate with SAP. So we're more powerful by us, right? It's an added on feature that makes your SaaS platform powerful, right? But if you look at Zluri, integration is the baselining for the platform to work by itself.
Right.
Without integration, the platform doesn't work, which means integration is a core story of Zluri, right? And the way I keep telling that is, I keep this an internal way I give an analogy inside. Sometimes I feel like the United Nations, Zluri, right? Where among all of those SaaS tools, that's not talking to each other really well, that doesn't have mature APIs, that doesn't do what it tells it does, everything. Whereas customer looks to us as a source of truth for all things SaaS in a company. When it comes to usage, users, utilization, access, provisioning, all of that, when it happens, then even if one thing is wrong with one tool somewhere, it feels like we are wrong, right? But in essence, we are only giving what's out there through our IP integration network, right? So that's where one of the challenges. We knew it was going to be a challenge for sure, but we definitely underestimated the complexity. And as you go into, so today's Zluri has built out 800 integrations.
Wow.
Right?
That's impressive.
You could have, now you can imagine the complications. Yeah. Right? With what we went to each one of them. And that story is never ending. It's continued to grow 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 5,000. It'll keep on growing up over a period of time. And you know that what you're going to encounter on maybe the 2,000 integration is something unpredicted. And that could be a very complex integration by itself. Right? So, and today, in the world of SaaS, APIs are the bridges of communication, right? And we rely on that to give the best communication experience, so to say. And the funny part is no two bridges are the same, right? So you can imagine, right? So that's the complexity I think we deal with, And that's what we've gotten much better off over a period of time to predict what the issue is going to be on an integration ahead of time, so that we are able to do fix an integration today. As I mean, some of our shortest integration has been 36 hours. Been able to do, from the word go to delivering value to a customer through integration is 36 hours flat. But to get to that, it just took us a lot of effort and time. So these are some things that we never predicted on the core part of the platform. And second one is customers keep pushing us to deliver more value because we have become that one unified platform for apps, users, and access. People want to know everything about apps, user, and access on Zluri. Now, when you talk about an app or an access or a user across an application stack, that could mean anything for anyone. So then what does it mean to each one and to deliver value is also a challenge. So, but thanks to customers' expectation on us and pushing us, we've been able to launch a lot of new products and modules and features on our platform that is continuously delivering value for them. So I think, I think these are the two broad challenges I think I would say, but I think I would still say that's what helps me wake up from bed every day, right? So we can look forward to something to solve for.
Yes,
So, yeah.
yes. Well, how important has customer feedback been in shaping Zluri's product development? Do you have some examples of maybe some features that were driven by customer needs or requests?
Of course. I never get tired of telling this story, right? So a lot of our customers are always the one pushing us. So if you read about Zluri's reviews on any of the review platform out there, they always say, these guys hear us out. They have a great support team. They helped us get here, right? Probably you can see real reviews of what customers exactly feel about working with us, right? So why am I telling this to you is because without customers, I don't think we would exist, both in terms of as a company and also to the level we have scaled so far in such a short time, right? And that story I want to share with you was how, um, in fact, today Zluri does SaaS management, access management, and access reviews in one platform. But when we started out, we were only doing SaaS management, right?
Okay.
In fact, I remember one customer gave us a glowing testimonial, loved us, gave us references. So what do you think? Awesome. You feel so good as a founder, right? And then 2 weeks later, they sent us a churn notice. And I'm like, hey, must be a wrong email ID. Like,
Right.
we go to them. Then he's like, no, it was meant for you. I mean, like 2 weeks ago, you recommended us, you gave a glowing testimonial. So I thought I had you as a customer for life. And then now you come back and churn on us. Like, I didn't get it. He's like, Sethu, you did such a good job on the platform that we're churning from you. I mean, like, hey, I can't understand trivia and my mind is not set for that, right? Get to the point. What do you mean? He's like, Sethu, when we got Zluri, our core objective was cost optimization. We want to reduce our software cost. You have reduced it so much that I know there is nothing much to reduce further next year, which means having a platform is not a need for me anymore. So hence I'm sending a churn notice. So I asked him, so you're firing me for doing a good job? He's like, yes. Then I asked myself, even if I didn't do a good job, you'd have still fired me. Then what are we building? Right? This is very early on in our journey, by the way, right? And I'm a question like, what are we building then?
Yeah.
Right? When it dawned on me saying that, you know what, if you continue to be the pill for the migraine, you're only going to be used when people have a migraine.
Right.
But if you become an Apple Watch for the fitness, people are going to wear you every single day to the swimming pool, to the bathtub, and whatnot. Right? You're always going to be with them, which means it's important to become a proactive platform that stops these kind of issues from happening versus solving for some problem that's already happened. Right? So that's when the whole product roadmap changed from being pure play cost optimization reactive platform to a very proactive platform that helps customers solve for all problems, not just on cost, but on access and provisioning, and also into the whole permission levels, which is what is called the access reviews today across the board, which I don't think we would have been able to launch all of these modules today without that customer churning on us by saying we did a good job. So, yeah, I think that's probably a story that change the direction of the company and how we think about the product.
That's really, really big. Ready to future proof your company and scale to new heights? Dive into the ultimate resource designed for SaaS founders and C suite executives. Champion Leadership Group gives you an unfair advantage in scaling up revenue and outwitting competitors. Imagine solving your biggest scaling headaches and hitting 5, 10, 20 million AR and beyond with ease. We take away the guesswork and the grunt work and replace it with framework by supporting you with our on-demand fractional C-suite team, a powerful operating system built into software, and a thriving community of fellow scaling founders. That's how we make it happen. If you're stuck at your current revenue level, this is your ticket out. Feel like your company is the world's best kept secret? We amplify your success. And maybe you're already crushing it, but maybe too busy to breathe. Hey, we got your back. We'll free up 20% of your time in the first month. Now is the time to upgrade from traction to scale. If you're ready to work smarter and not just grind harder, schedule a 10-minute growth brainstorm. It's free, and we will pinpoint the number one thing blocking revenue. Visit championleadership.com, where leaders evolve and companies transform. But it really nails a key problem, and that's ongoing value. There's a lot of times if there's a problem that software is solving, it's really big value up front, and then the tail is relatively small. And so I think you're finding that big value, you still deliver that big value up front, but then you're building in a lot more value along the way, so that they do need you long term. It's not just there in the beginning, the big hit, and then nothing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that served us really well as well. So today we go ahead and tell our customers, we don't want to be a platform for just the bad times. We want to be a platform for the good times as well.
Yeah.
Because when the economy is growing, people think productivity, people think how they can be efficient and all of that. But it's only when during the macro is not great, people think about how do I save money, cut corners and all of that. So today, Zluri is a platform for all seasons and reasons.
I like that. Well, last time we talked, you mentioned building a discovery engine based on customer needs. And explain a little bit more about how the engine works and the impact on managing the tech stack.
Sure. So, we said maybe I'll give you a framework as well how we think about this.
Sure.
So there are three kinds of IT today. Think back in the day there was just one IT, which is just the managed IT, which means IT was aware of and had control over. But today there are two more kinds of IT. In fact, there's a third one also, which is stealth IT, which means IT knows of but does not have control over. So these are business unit managed applications like the Salesforce and Marketers of the world.
Sure.
Right. And the third one is the shadow IT, which IT does not know of and does not have control over. Right. And which is the 70% of IT today anyways.
Wow.
Right. And the next one is shadow AI, the latest one, thanks to the NVIDIA stock going off the roof. People are using a lot of AI applications that they don't want their IT to know of. And to use those apps, they are exchanging the company's data as a barter, right? So stealth IT, shadow IT, and shadow AI are three different IT that has evolved outside of managed IT. And what happens when you go from the managed IT to shadow AI from left to the right is your visibility and control across the stack comes down, which is the problem Zluri is exactly solving for. We sit right at the center and help bring visibility and control across all kinds of IT, thereby bringing it back to the good old days of making IT the managed IT, right? So that's the fundamental problem we solve. Now, if you want to solve for this problem, what you need to be good at is discovering the apps and users across all these different kinds of IT, which means I can't go to market with a very limited discovery options. Hence, Zluri has built out the most exhaustive discovery engine in this space that spans up to 9 different discovery methods, which means in all of the discovery methods, I can promise you, should you implement all the 9 discovery methods, that we will find the SaaS applications and the shadow AI applications in your stack and show it to you. We can even tell you the users using those applications, thereby giving you visibility and control, right? On security purposes and also from a cost perspective as well, all put together in one platform. So Zluri does not see cost and security as two different parts of the spectrum. It's under one, right? So we can even give you visibility and control to not the apps behind the identity system, but the ones without the identity layer as well, which is the most important aspect today, right? I think that's what we ended up solving for, which customers love us for. And that makes us uniquely positioned to have built up the best discovery engine in this space. So, yeah.
It's a unique way of looking at it, and I don't know any other company that's doing that, because there are companies out there that their pitch is, we're going to save you on your subscriptions and not duplicate subscriptions, that kind of thing, and that's one piece of it. And there's companies that focus on security, but not those two things together, but they are completely linked, and you really need to have a tool for both of those, and not two tools, but one would be really, really nice. I think that's really unique that you put those together.
Yeah, I think, like I said, did we know all this when we started out? Hey, no. But did we learn along the way? Hell yeah.
Yeah. Well, what are user access reviews, and why are those critical for managing permissions within applications?
Sure. So, user access reviews, simply put, today there are two kinds of problem when it comes to SaaS applications. One is how many users in my company have access to the SaaS applications. That's the breadth problem, right? And the second question is, to what extent do they have permissions to do certain actions, right? Which means the depth we're talking about. Assuming 100 people have access to an application, what if 70 of them are admins of the platform? You don't want that,
Right.
right? You probably want 2 or 3 people to be an admin, rest to be probably few permission levels down. Now, when access are being given to SaaS applications, uh, in your tenure in your company, for example, you're not really it's not really a thought through process. People are very hurried to get access to get job done, that sometimes they get not the right level of access, which means they get over permissioned in an application, and that becomes a critical issue during times when bad actors pop up, because they can do a lot of things, and because they have the permission to do so, they will do it, which means unless and until consistently it's being reviewed for, you can't safeguard your organization. And that's what Zluri helps companies do. Now, without Zluri, how does companies do? It's a very tedious manual process. You need to, I mean, think of this, right? IT is responsible for this activity, but they don't have control over it, because most of this happens in the stealth IT layer, right?
Yeah.
If something is within the IT's control, they go to the application, they look at everything, they know what to do, right? But who should have access to what level of permissions in a Salesforce is something IT can't decide. It's probably the head of sales or head of marketing has to decide, right? Same thing goes to multiple other applications. For GitHub, head of engineering needs to decide, things like that. So, which means that entire process of reviewing the users on the application and their permission level has to be done by the app owner or the department owner in that sense. But that entire process happens over spreadsheets, emails, Slack, Teams. It's broken. And worst part, it has to happen every quarter, either by compliance, by Sarbanes-Oxley or a SOC 2, whatever that you're bound by, or even as a best practice. All right. So, and IT has to deliver on this one, but they are at the mercy of these other department heads. And they don't have any system to track this today. But enter Zluri, we can automate all of this 100%. And that's the beauty. And wherever there are integrations, we can automatically fetch this, so that even assuming that IT does it today, let's assume they have to, let's say you're the Salesforce head and you have to review the permissions, and Jeff is always busy, right? So they send you something today, you will review it 3 weeks later.
Right.
Imagine that is already stale data of 3 weeks, right? Now, by the time you come back with a response, it's probably 4 weeks, and that's already past its due. So then, how do you enforce that by the time you review it, its latest data? So Zluri is able to help with all of that with its 24-hour data refreshes on the platform. So which means that irrespective of who has to do, when they have to do, the data is up to date on the platform, and IT is at peace. Even the continuous reminders, follow ups is something we take care of as well on the platform, which means you can trigger off like 20 reviews for 20 applications, or users or groups, whatever you want to do, whatever permutation combination on Zluri's platform. And every quarter, if you tell Zluri, it automatically does every quarter as well. Which means beginning of the year, you can set for the whole year and take a break. We would do it for you. Without us, all of this is manual. So that's the value delivery on access reviews by Zluri.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to do that manually, especially as infrastructure continues to grow. But I think I really like the way you're thinking about that with the three different levels, particularly stealth. Is that something that happens in every organization, and the bigger organization is, the more it happens, for sure.
Yeah, bigger the classroom, noisier the children. Same way. So
That's a good analogy.
yeah.
Well, you talked about in the beginning, not necessarily knowing where it was going to grow to, and it's gotten a lot bigger and a lot more broad than you started. Any architectural decisions that you made at the beginning that were beneficial, down the road in the product development process, or what types of lessons maybe are there that other startups could learn from your experience?
It's a good question. So our vision expanded after starting out as well, right? It was not like we wanted to do all of this in the beginning. Like I said, I think we started Zluri for the love of the problem.
Yeah.
Right. So what a couple of things we very, very clear. I think the whole framework I spoke about, visibility and control, that is always the beginning. Right. And I think visibility is just visibility is probably just one dimensional. You want to see everything that's out there, right? And you can keep on adding different sources of discovery, which is
Sure.
straightforward, right? But it's the control layer that's multidimensional. What do you want to control? Just the cost, security, the permissions, the access. You could just keep on expanding. Maybe we would have more lenses to look at and more layers to look at, maybe 1 year down the line as well. I don't know that today, right? But as our vision expands, do we have the technology today to expand along with that? And the answer is yes. That's because of the way that we solve the problem, saying that visibility and control is something where customers will continue to buy us for all the time. And the control layer could keep changing depending on the flavor of the season or what the market demand is. And can we expand to that? So, for example, simply put, Zluri is the only platform that support multiple instances of applications. For example, if you're a company that could have, let's say, 4 or 5 trusted domains, and you could have Salesforce or Microsoft with 4 or 5 instances of them using in the company, only on Zluri, you can connect 5 instances, for example, of Microsoft and look at users within the 5 different instances, and you can slice and dice the data. Now, the reason we have that already is because of visibility. If customers care about visibility, they won't care about one domain. They care about all the domains.
Right.
Right? So then the architects have to support that. Now, with that, what we can do is you can do that for user access reviews. Now, if customers decide to do different reviews for different instances separately, because different instances could be owned by different owner, right? Not the same owner or the app owner or the business owner in that sense. So, which means then can you take the 5 different instances of the same application and give it to 5 different people for review? You can do it on Zluri today. So these kind of architecture decisions we took very early on is enabling us to scale the way we want it, right? So which looked like a lot of hard work to begin with. Why the hell are we doing it when we did it? But it's all connecting the dots today, which wouldn't have happened if it not thought through in depth. We would have always been a platform that's 2-3 code features short all the time. But today, that's not who we are or who we aren't. And second is we had a very integration approach to the problem. So while there are 9 different discovery methods, the core is the integrations, right? And we said that's a hard problem to solve. Let's go solve for it. All right. The moment we solve for that hard problem, we make a lot more mistakes ahead of in the journey, which means anybody else has to do. They will make the same mistakes. I keep telling people It's like growing up. The same mistake my dad made as a teen is what even I'm making a few years later.
Yeah.
I don't think that changes, right? The same way for building anyone. So let's face it quicker, build the hard problems, solve the hard problems first. So scaling becomes relatively easier as we move on. All right. So all of these decisions, I think, made us in a better position to launch multi-product than what it was earlier on. So yeah.
I think that's really good. That's just the entrepreneurial spirit behind that. There's a hard problem. Let's go solve it. Hey, that's just a beautiful statement. Definitely encaptures the entrepreneurial spirit and the founder journey for sure.
Yeah. Thank you. So sometimes people are, what is entrepreneurship? I keep telling that's willfully signing up for pain.
It is. It is. We do it over and over again. What have been some of those pains? What are the challenges and maybe it's the thought process behind some of the key business decisions during your founder journey?
Yeah, I think it's about, I mean, at seed and series A and series B, you need to evolve as well, right? I think what's sometimes possible in a seed and not possible in seed flips itself on series A and B. And then what's possible today, not possible today, flips again by itself in the next stage of growth as well, right? It's about growing with the journey, evolving the mind, and having the right team and investors along the way to accomplish that, right? I think those are things that need to evolve. I keep telling, I think, so I'm father of two boys, and one is just 18 months old, right? So I keep telling that it's just the same, right? I think your second kid is no big different than the first kid. It's the same process, right? It doesn't change big time. It's the same thing again and again and again and again and again,
Yeah.
right? Now, the question is, do you want to do it? Right. So only two things happened, right? I think after having the first kid, most people want the second kid, or everybody's like, I'm done for life, right? There is no middle ground after a first child, right?
Right.
Because that's when you learn. And one framework that's helped me evolve over time is a framework is a statement a friend of mine told when I had the first kid. So I was about to, the baby was about to be born. I wasn't prepared, right? So I said, hey, he was a dad already of two kids. So like, give me something to grow into this. How do you be a great dad? Tell me, right? And he told me that, hey Sethu, you can never be prepared to be a father. So just be one,
Hmm.
right? And that was one of the best advice I got because I could use it for everything. I could never be prepared to be a founder. So let me be just one. I can never be prepared to be moved to the US with my family. So let me just move. So when you realize that no one's ever prepared for anything,
Yeah.
so are you, just do it anyways. And I think that's a better mind frame for me. Otherwise, going through this 3.5, close to 4 years in a few months, wouldn't have been, I would say easy, wouldn't have been possible, right? So with this, you still have the framework and the way to look at things, and this too shall pass, and you grow the next day, right? So I think probably that's what I would tell people, that this made me prepared for the journey that I took.
Yeah. That's a really good way to look at it and a mindset. And I think that's so important is to move before you're ready. Just do it. Build messy and don't wait for it to be perfect. Because if we wait on that, we'll never get anywhere. Won't get anything done.
Yeah.
What have been key learnings from the fundraising experiences? You seed all the way through Series B now.
It's always an interesting experience. No two fundraising is the same, right? For sure. So one thing investors keep looking at even in the Series B is the founder commitment and the founder energy, right? I think that's the most important aspect in a business, right? And how much you're willing to endure, what do you want to do, how much you want to scale, what do you want to grow to, and all of that, right? I mean, it's of all kinds of investments in the world, VC is one of the most riskiest asset class,
Sure.
right? And we all know it. So the jobs of them, the VCs is also not the easiest of all, right? I mean, I think today we know that in the US, I think your treasury bonds give a very fixed higher returns, which was not really the case. If that's the case, then why should you take a lot more risk for a few percentage points?
Right.
So even that's very hard thing for them as well. So if you understand this of the investor, then you can pitch really well. Sometimes the question they ask you, they push you, they do it is not being unreasonable, because their job is also equally hard, right? So then what do you want to look at? So irrespective of the TAM and all that, in fact, think of this, right? Would you and I ever make a decision on something where almost everything is a variable?
Yeah.
No, right? I mean, you never would. Even in our investments, you would have invested something on S&P 500,
Right.
and maybe right, and some debt, something like housing, which will going to grow up, or it's a or it's all stored in some asset,
Right.
And then some you will probably load in some of the stock market, hoping something will happen. Otherwise, you're okay. Even if that goes away, your life won't change, right? Even there, about 90% of us is made through some kind of a predictable method of investing.
Right.
On the other side, we see investing is probably based on 100% variability. It's just not easy, right? So this is something that I understood in the fundraising. Somebody, obviously, I know somebody educated me on this. When I had this perspective, then I became better off in the way we would prepare ourselves for the pitches, right? The why behind the why. Why do we do something? Why we think it'll be working? What is the worst case? What's possible? What's not? What's the commitment? All of this is something that you need to be prepared for, right? That's what I would tell most founders as well. You can talk all of that you want at a macro level, but if you don't have the energy to go execute it, no point, right? At the same time, you have all the energy to execute it, but if the macros don't align, even that's a problem. So try to see both align to an extent, then I think you'll eventually figure out the journey. And then it's probably worthwhile for the investors who trusted you.
Yeah. So how did you decide to raise versus bootstrap? Or did you do that for a while and then saw an opportunity? What was the thought process?
So we wanted it to be a VC funded, not because the reason is very simple for us. We want to build a world-class product.
Okay.
Like I said, it's a complex product architecture, and we need world-class engineers to do that. And to do that, we wouldn't have been able to do it with a bootstrap. We could have, I guess, but would have taken a lot of time.
Okay.
And we believe that the sooner you get into the market with the product, the sooner you're able to achieve the goal set.
Right.
Right. Otherwise, because also we realized that when we understood the problem statement, we were one of the few early people to understand the depth of this. The more we waited and built it out, a lot of people have understood there's more competition. We want to be quick to the market. You want to be quick to the market, and the acceleration need VC money. Right? You can't do it bootstrap. So we're very clear on that. So we were bootstrap from day one, in that sense. So we didn't go the other route as well. So, but because I've not done the other route, I don't think I have many data points to comment on. But yeah.
So what's next for Zluri?
Again, keep growing. I just recently moved to the US. So obviously being closer to the customer is the intent. Be in front of the customers, meet more, hear them out more, and solve more of the pain points. If that leads to creating a lot more depth in the product, I want to do that. Right? That's pretty clearer. And customers defined as a roadmap for the next 1 year easily. They have all of the
That's great.
Right? And garner all the customer love, grow the market, grow the team in the US. So all of this are some of our to-do list, at least for short term. And in the long term, be a brand to reckon with in this space, right? And stand for customer centricity like we always do, and solve a lot more complex problems for our customers that requires us to launch a lot more newer features and modules. We would love to do that for our customers. So that's the next steps for the next 12 to 24 months.
That's good. Well, where can people learn more about you and about Zluri online?
They can read a lot more about understanding what different kinds of problems we solve, what makes us unique. So I keep telling that there is no single source of truth for apps, users, and access for CIOs and CISOs today. Towards Zluri is fast becoming one. So how are we going towards a journey? Our founding story, everything is out there. In fact, our blog is one of the most well-read blogs by an analyst in this space. So I would highly recommend people to read about all of this. In fact, we have quoted all our competition on our blog as well, right? We've taken all of that because we know what we're delivering on. So all of that can be accessed on the internet by anybody who wants to look for knowledge.
We'll make sure and link to that in our show notes. And where can people learn more about you and about Zluri online?
About me, I think my story. So I keep telling people that don't think twice before moving a family as a founder halfway around the world. It's going to be worth it. And I realized that I've not written much about my own journey. Probably I'll take this podcast as an inspiration to go right now. And it's important people take that, right? Because when the moment you take the moment you take those decisions, might look hard, gasping, sure, I didn't need to do it. But 6 months behind you, you're like, oh, I'm glad I did it.
Yeah.
Right? I think we've done, I have done, and my founders have done a lot like these. I want to share the story with people so they know what to expect should they choose this journey. And I'm super positive that we're entering a world of more builders and less of critics. Right? And those builders need to learn what it takes to go build. And it's not easy. If it was easy, everyone would do it.
Yeah, that's right.
I would love to take this journey, this podcast as an inspiration to go write more about it and share the story with people. When I do that, I'll possibly tag you, Jeff, for triggering that in me.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Sethu, for being on the show. It was a great conversation. Thanks for being on SaaS Fuel.
All right. Thanks so much, Jeff. You were a great host too. Thank you so much.
Thanks again, Sethu, for coming on the show and sharing your journey and insights. You can learn more about Sethu and Zluri at zluri.com, Zluri.com. As always, all links, highlights, resources, and full show notes are available at saasfuel.com. And of course, be sure to check us out on YouTube as well. Full episodes, video shorts, training, lots of stuff there, a few outtakes. Thought leaders share. And I'll bet you are a thought leader because you're listening still. Well, share this episode and maybe suggest some topics that you want us to cover. Tag us in the share, and your idea could be on our next big episode. Everyone who shares this week gets a loyalty lantern, special lamp that lights up whenever a client feels especially appreciated. Keep it glowing by regularly engaging with your customers in meaningful and creative ways. Or, maybe use the other tools I mentioned in the earlier segment to track authentic engagement for your SaaS. Join us Thursday on our SaaS Fuel Expert Series, where my guest is Sylvia LaFleur, author and leadership development expert. We'll be talking about how the behavior patterns we learned in our original organization, the family, show up in our present organization at work, and what to do to change those patterns that no longer help us succeed. And the next Tuesday, we have founder Sean Malone. He's founder and CEO of FlowChat. He is a multi-time founder who is on his way to turning FlowChat into a unicorn. Listen in and put his strategies to work in your SaaS today. So I will see you next time. And as always, enjoy the journey.
Thanks for listening to SaaS Fuel. Full show notes for each episode, which includes a summary, key takeaways, quotes, and any resources mentioned, are available at saasfuel.com. Be sure to follow and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you're enjoying the content and getting value from these episodes, please leave us a rating and review at ratethispodcast.com/SaaSfuel. We'll be sure to read these out on future episodes.